Hello and welcome to episode 51 of Life is Horror, the channel where I talk about horror movies, do horror quizzes, rankings, all that stuff, and sometimes horror news updates. But in this episode, I'm going to just do a horror quiz and a horror ranking about aliens, top 10 alien horror movies, and an alien horror movie quiz. And I'm going to review the new alien movie, Alien Romulus, by director Fede Alvarez. So, let's get into it. No horror news to talk about today, so let's just jump into the reviews segment. All right, first up, Humane. This is directed by Caitlin Cronenberg, the daughter of David Cronenberg, and this movie is about in the wake of an environmental collapse that has forced humanity to shed 20% of its population, a family dinner erupts into chaos when a father's plan to enlist in the government's new euthanasia program goes horribly awry. Very interesting movie. And it's kind of heavy-handed, social political commentary on all kinds of things. Touches on things like climate change, pollution, population control, untrustworthy media, and the family in this is connected, very rich. So this movie kind of paints the rich in a bad light, like a lot of movies like to do. Rich people are evil, blah blah blah, and big government, all that stuff. And while it's very unbelievable that something like this could ever happen, kind of like The Purge, um, it's unbelievable, but it's still entertaining nonetheless. I was pretty entertained by this. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie once it got going. The first act was a little bit of a sluggish, uh, pace. I didn't really like it all that much, but once I saw where it was going, like once it was revealed what was happening, uh, you know, what decision had to be made, I was like, oh, now this is interesting. I was almost ready to check out before that point, but once the ball got rolling, I was like, all right, this is actually funny and interesting. Um, the sun thing I thought was weird. In this movie, the sun I guess is extra harmful, the UV rays, so everyone's walking around outside with umbrellas, and their cars have to have special windows on it. I thought that was weird. And the ending was not what I was expecting, so I kind of like that. And I don't like one aspect of this ending, but I won't say it because that would be a spoiler. But I did like that it wasn't what I was expecting, but there was one part of the ending where I was like, that was kind of a poor choice to do that. The little girl actress in this movie, I didn't like her. I thought her acting wasn't that good, but I enjoyed the other performances in this movie. There's some dark comedy, and it was just fun watching this family like tear each other apart. They're a very awful, awful family. And I like that they gave some character development even to the main, government bad guy. I like that they kind of made him less one note, and he was probably my favorite character. I just kind of thought he was fun, a fun bad guy. Although the main family, the protagonists, are kind of bad guys too. Some of them are corrupt pieces of shits. Very rich, entitled, connected people who are, working for the government, working for the media, lying to the people, you know, which is very believable. That part is very believable in this movie. That happens all the time. You can't trust the media. Um, I wish that the government dude had more to do in between all the family scenes besides just play cards with himself. He was just playing solitary every time they cut back to him. But he was still kind of funny. Um, yeah, it's a very different movie. I haven't seen anything quite like this. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I would give this movie 4 out of 5 stars. Really liked it. So next movie, let's do Stream, the slasher movie that just came out. A very low budget independent movie uh, from the guys who brought you Terrifier. As the Keenans try to bring their family closer together, they unwittingly enter themselves into a game of life or death, with four deranged killers patrolling the halls of their hotel and competing for the most creative kills. The odds are definitely stacked against them. Now, this has a lot of people in it. This stars Jeffrey Combs, Tony Todd, Daniel Harris, Dee Wallace, Felissa Rose, Daniel Roebuck, Dave Sheridan, Jason Levy. That's the brother of the director, Michael Levy. who also has a role in this movie. And you got Mark Holton, Tim Reed, Terry Kaiser, and they also said it's been announced that Tim Curry is in this movie. Now, with that being said, all those names are not necessarily in the movie for that long. There's a lot of people in this movie that are in it for like one scene, and some of them are only in a post-credit scene. So stick around for post-credits. There is a post-credit scene, and some of those people will show up. So yeah, they're not in it a whole lot, and I didn't expect them to. I honestly knew better than to think that all those names I just listed would be like all the main characters and they'd be in it a good majority. No, I knew that most of them would just have one or two scenes, and that was the case. But this movie, nonetheless, is still a treat for slasher fans. I think slasher fans will appreciate this movie the most because of the gore, the kills, the practical effects by Damien Leone. They're incredible. You get a couple of really gruesome on screen kills, a little mean spirited, and I mean, the ones that are on camera, there are some off camera kills. Not every kill is going to be on camera. The first couple are completely off camera. There's one or two more later that are off camera. And there's some like aftermath kills. Not every kill is great, but the ones you do see on screen are fantastic. And they developed the characters in this main family that we're focused on, with the father, son, daughter, and the Art Crispy's kid from Terrifier 2. They're relatable. I thought they seemed genuine. I really liked them. And you don't get that a whole lot in slasher movies. They're usually underdeveloped, but I actually liked this family, and hope that they would all make it out alive. And the score of the movie was fantastic. Same composer as Terrifier 1 and 2, Paul Wiley. This has some John Carpenter vibes here and there. Very like rhythmic and like techno or like synth, and just very awesome sound. I really liked the music in this movie. The killer's masks, they all have a similar look that you see on the poster, but some of their eyes glow different colors for each person. So that's the one thing that makes them, stand out in the face. Some of them have glowing green eyes, blue eyes, red eyes, but they're all essentially the same mask, kind of basic skull looking mask. But I like that they kind of the eyes glow. And players 2 and 3 were the standouts, when it comes to the bad guys. Players 2 and 3 were the brother sister killers. One of them played by David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown. They had the most like personality. They were very theatrical about how they would kill their victims and chase them and kind of dancing down the halls. The other two were just kind of like the basic. One was like the tall, skinny, like Michael Myers type, and the other one was like the big, massive, like Victor Crowley type. Kind of like the generic, slasher killers. But the other two were the more different and fun killers. Players 2 and 3 were my favorites because they weren't like stereotypical slashers. They had some personality to them, but they're all voiceless. And David Howard Thornton kind of brings that Art the Clown, those Art the Clown isms to his performance. He's like a mime in this one too. He's kind of, or not really a mime, but he's kind of like dancing down the halls and kind of does some similar-ish like movements and mannerisms like he does when he plays Art the Clown. Characters that stood out to me, some of my favorite people in this movie were Jeffrey Combs and Daniel Roebuck. Daniel Roebuck was like the levity, the comic relief, the drunk with no filter character. Just had me chuckling quite a few times. I liked him. And some subtle like references to other horror movies that these people were also in. I saw like a Reanimator homage, and you got the guy Mark Holton from Leprechaun and Teen Wolf 2. And Jeffrey Combs at one point is talking to him, and he like calls him by his character's name in those movies. He calls him like Chubb and like Ozzy. I think that's, I didn't fact check it, but I'm pretty sure his name was Ozzy in Leprechaun. So I thought it was kind of funny that he called them those names. So kind of like meta. And but this movie's not perfect. It does have some disappointing things. Like I already said, the whole like some big names were saved just for a post credit scene. I would have liked more presence from them. And also the fact that there were some off-camera kills. I went into this thinking that we would get mostly on-screen kills because this was being, marketed as, the guys who brought you Terrifier 2, and like all those kills were on camera, right? So I was expecting like all on-camera kills, but the fact that the first two were completely off, and then there was more later on, I was like, oh, I thought everything was going to be just like in your face, gory, but that wasn't the case. The story is nothing original. Like I've seen this kind of movie before, streaming and the black market or the dark web. That's what they call it. Like something that a bunch of rich people watch, kind of like Hostel 3 or Christie, or there was another one, The Den, something like that. Where they're just streaming murders for rich people to bet money on. It's nothing new, but that's not a major critique. I wasn't expecting wholly original material here. I went into it just wanting some cool kills, and I got some gruesome kills in this for sure. And it is a long movie. It's 2 hours long. I think it's 2 hours and 10 minutes, but that's including like post credit scene that goes on for a few minutes and some long credits and a special message from the filmmakers that was at the theater. So it's probably more like an hour and 55 minutes total if you take away the post credit stuff. But yeah, it feels kind of long in the first act, especially. It kind of takes a while to get going, but that's because they're setting up the characters and they're actually trying to make you care about them. So I appreciate that. But it did feel like it could have been tightened a little bit. The first act felt a tad slow. But overall, I wasn't, that bored with this movie. I really liked it. Or not, I liked it enough, but I can't see myself revisiting this that often. But I would still give this like a 3.5. If you're a slasher fan, you'll like it for the kills and the killers in it. The familiar faces and the music, especially, I thought was top notch. So check it out. And next movie, the final movie is not Humane. It is Alien Romulus. This was one of my more anticipated movies of the year because I'm a big Fede Alvarez fan. I love Don't Breathe. I love Evil Dead. It's my favorite remake of all time. And so I had a feeling that I was gonna love this movie, or that it would be definitely the best sequel since Aliens. And it did not disappoint. This is the best. I already did an Alien rankings of the franchise, all not 8 movies. Now there's 9. This movie would be right after the first two. This is the best since Aliens. I really liked it. Fede Alvarez once again delivers yet another popular horror franchise entry that is easily the best. He did, like I said, Evil Dead remake. It's my favorite in that series. He also produced and wrote the story for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He didn't write the screenplay for that, but that was still very much a movie by him. Producer, story credit. So and that's my favorite. Also, since the remake and the original, I think that's one of the best movies in that franchise. I know that's not very popular to say, but I don't care. I love it. And he did not disappoint yet again. Fede Alvarez is like 3 for 3 now in terms of directing horror movies. He's Evil Dead, Don't Breathe, and now this. Other movies uh, that he didn't direct, I also like. Like the Spider Web movie, whatever that was called, Girl with the Spider Web or whatever. That was good. And also Don't Breathe 2, he co-wrote, produced. That was good also. So yeah, he hasn't made a bad movie ever. So he's one of my favorite horror directors and producers working today. It's very well shot. This movie looks great. The sets, mostly all practical effects. He's been going around promoting that he just wanted practical effects with the aliens, the face huggers, and they have some behind the scenes stuff showing how they did that stuff, and it's impressive. The effects in this movie are great, and it pays homage to some of the earlier movies, like the first two, and it's set in between the first movies in the timeline. And also, it brings the series back to its horror roots. The first one felt like a slasher in space. The second one was more action, and then after that, it just became more sci-fi and very story driven, just all about the origins and stuff, less horror. This one brought it back to the horror of it and just being stuck in space with these creatures, and all the characters getting picked off in different ways. No kill is the same, and there's a couple of brilliant suspenseful sequences, making great use of like zero gravity and silence, which Fede is very good at in movies like Don't Breathe. He makes great use of silence where characters have to sneak around being very quiet. And so there's more of that in this movie. And I like the lead character and her synthetic, her android brother, and his performance was great. He's always telling bad dad jokes, and I like how that kind of like plays into, it becomes important later on. His bad dad jokes actually help out in some way. Um, and so yeah, just I thought the writing was pretty good. I don't think all the dialogue was that fantastic. I don't think Fide seems to that seems to be like a weak spot for him is dialogue. Because even in the movies I love, like Evil Dead and Don't Breathe, the dialogue's not always on point. It seems like it's not always great. I'll just leave it at that. But it doesn't hurt the movie that much for me. And the score I thought was fantastic in this movie. It kind of feels like an amalgam of old school Jerry Goldsmith, original Alien score with modern style music, and just very intense. And the sets were terrific, and the technology that the characters use, the computers, all the graphics, it looks like they purposely made it look kind of like a 70s film made today, like how the graphics would look. Like it doesn't look like a movie made today when you look at this stuff like, because this movie's set in between Alien and Aliens. I like that they did that. Like they made it look like it's actually set in between. Like the technology in this movie shouldn't be so far advanced just because you're making the movie in 2024. Like they kept in mind that this movie is set in between the other two movies, and the technology wasn't all that great. The graphics and stuff. So that's good continuity to me. It's great continuity. And a couple of smaller characters in the movie on the ship. I mean, there's not that many characters. There's like maybe 5 or 6 that go to this Romulus ship. They seemed a little underdeveloped, like the Asian girl and her boyfriend. Like they seemed very underdeveloped. It's one little small nitpick of mine. I wish could have gotten more from them. And the third act, I think, is going to be probably what's most divisive about this movie, because it starts to feel like a different Alien sequel. They've been talking about this movie being like a mixture of Alien and Aliens, but there's a little bit of a different Alien sequel vibe that I got in the third act, and there's a hybrid, which is nothing new to the franchise. There's been hybrids before in a lot of the other movies, but the look of this hybrid alien, I didn't really care for. It just looked jarring. It kind of took me out of the movie. So that's like my one major critique, is I wish that would have looked better, more scary, not so ridiculous. Um, and yeah, there's one scene of like exposition in this movie that feels like it's like Ridley Scott saying, "Hey, put this scene in your movie so that you can make reference to like my movies, Prometheus and Covenant." Like they try to tie those movies into this one, and it just kind of felt kind of shoehorned in. It wasn't really that important. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really enjoyed this movie. I had a great time with it. It's one of the best movies of the year, and I would also give this a 4 out of 5, and I can see this going up on rewatch to like a 4.5. It's not perfect, but it's definitely one of the best in the franchise since Alien and Aliens. So if you're an Alien fan, check it out. This is one of the best. So now I guess let's get into the quiz. 20 questions for Alien movies. Some true or false, some multiple choice. Let's get into it. Alien quiz. Let's take it. No, that's wrong. All right, Alien quiz. So, question number 1 is, what is the name of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake that starred Daniel Craig? Question 2, what do the island inhabitants of Grabbers do in order to avoid being killed by the aliens? Question 3, which film features a group of aliens who looked like clowns? That's a softball question. Question 4. Whose book and alleged true story is Fire in the Sky based on? Question 5. Which actor played FBI Special Agent Lloyd Gallagher in The Hidden? Question 6. Which trilogy of alien horror movies had sequels called The Second Encounters and Watch the Skies? Question 7. What is the name of the alien played by Natasha Henstridge in Species? Question 8. What do the aliens in Peter Jackson's Bad Taste want to do with human beings? Question 9. Which Star Trek actor appeared in Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake in 1978 as Dr. Kibner? Question 10. After Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Steven Spielberg was developing a horror film about a family being terrorized by aliens in a rural farmhouse called Night Skies. True or false? Question 11. Which alien horror movie directed by James Gunn stars Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, Greg Henry, and Michael Rooker? Question 12. Guess the alien horror movie from the following review. The Vicious Brothers have some fun with what's essentially a slasher movie featuring homicidal aliens. Question 13 is, what do the aliens need to survive in The Faculty? Question 14. Which special device does Roddy Piper use in They Live to view the world as it really is? Question 15. What actually is Plan 9 in the movie Plan 9 from Outer Space? Question 16 is, which alien horror movie am I describing? There's a bad robot, some eggs, a mother, a cat, and someone who's saying right a lot. Question 17. What do the bounty hunters and critters have the special ability to do? Question 18. What is the name of the underwater alien movie that Friday the 13th director Sean S. Cunningham made in 1989? Question 19 is, in life, which planet had the alien life form previously caused extinction on? Question 20. Which alien movie starring Christopher Walken was based on Whitley Strieber's alleged true story of alien abduction? And there you have it. So, let me know your answers in the comments below. Feel free, of course, pause after every question. I just rattle them off. I'm not going to pause for 20 seconds in between for you to answer. So just pause the video after each question and take the time to answer them if you want. I knew about half of those. I alien sci-fi horror is not really my cup of tea usually, unless it's done very well, like Aliens, and Alien Romulus. But with that being said, here are some of my favorites. My favorite top 10 favorite alien movies of all time. Let's get into this. So let's get rid of that and let's pop up. Hold on. Not number 9. Let's get to my number 10. All right, so number 10 of my favorite alien horror movies is Night of the Creeps. A movie I've definitely reviewed. I don't know why that happened. Night of the Creeps. All right. Yeah, I reviewed this movie from 1986, one of the best movies from that year. Tom Atkins stars in it. Great movie. It also feels like a zombie movie also, so it's very unique. It's kind of an amalgamation of different genres, slasher, alien, zombies. Cult classic, worth checking out if you haven't seen it. And number 9 is TerrorVision. Yeah, I haven't seen this movie in a couple of years, but I saw it a few times. And it's just so wacky, so fun. John Carl Buechler effects, and Diane Franklin from Amityville 2 is in it, and the actor from Chopping Mall and Child's Play 2. It's ridiculous. It's more of a comedy than a horror movie. Not all these movies on my list will be horror. This one's comedy, horror, and it's super cheesy, 80s fun. I reviewed this movie also on my channel. I think most of these, if not all of them, I've reviewed. So number 8 is Sign. I did not review this one, but I did talk about it briefly on my M. Night Shyamalan ranking. And this one was my number. I will save that for the video. You can check out my video to see where this one landed, but I really like this movie. Mel Gibson, and it's one of the best M. Night Shyamalan movies. Check out my ranking to see where it lands on that list. And number 7 is Cloverfield. I did a ranking of Cloverfield, not Cloverfield. I reviewed this movie and I did a ranking of found footage movies, and this one was pretty damn high up. This is in contention for my number one found footage movie. It's easily, top 3. I just absolutely adore this movie. Love this one. I even love 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's a masterpiece. I love this movie. So check it out. This is awesome. Number 6 is Alien. That's right, the original Alien. Some of you might be shocked that it's not even top 5, but I don't care. I still love this movie. All these movies I love. These are all like 9 out of 10s to 10 out of 10s. These are all fantastic films. Aliens, like a slasher movie in space. I did talk about this movie in my Alien ranking video I did a year and a half ago. And so I'll just let you go check out my thoughts there. I'll say it again. Number 5, just trying to get through this quicker. Mars Attacks. I did a very short, spoiler-free review of this movie. This was a childhood horror movie. Yeah, I consider it horror enough, because to me it was scary as a kid. This is a very nostalgic film for me. It's one of the few VHSs I owned growing up, and it always scared me. I love the look of the aliens in this movie. It has a huge cast of big name actors in it, and it's a lot of fun, a lot of action, and it's just very iconic to me. There's a lot of great moments in this movie that just are iconic to me. Favorite Tim Burton movie for sure. And number 4, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And this is a movie that I love more and more every time I watch it. I remember the first time I watched it, I wasn't too big on it long ago, but now I just absolutely adore it. The music in this movie, the look of the aliens, clowns in this one, the set design, it's very wacky. This is more comedy than horror, just like a couple of the other ones I've talked about. But this is my top 10 alien movie list, not necessarily alien horror. So let's just say that. Top 10 aliens. So yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, huge amount of fun and cracks me up every time. It's very wild, inventive, unique. So much fun. I wish they would make a sequel. They made a video game for this movie. They've been talking about a sequel for a long time. I wish they would do it. As long as it's the same people, the writers, directors, the Chiodo brothers, bring them back. Let's get another sequel with practical effects, not all CGI. Let's do it right. Let's get another one. And number 3, A Quiet Place. And yeah, I reviewed this movie also. It's a masterpiece. Love it. The tension, the family, just very awesome. Very well written. The performances. It's one of the best movies of the 21st century. It's one of my favorite alien movies. It was in my top 3 of 2018. That was a fantastic year for horror. Hereditary, this movie, just all kinds of great movies came out that year, and this is easily the best of the trilogy by far. And my number 2 is The Mist, one of my favorite Stephen King movies. And top 2, top 3 Stephen King films. I think I did a Stephen King ranking. This was very high up there. One of the most downbeat, most brutal endings to any horror movie ever. And I think I did that list too. I think I did a top 10 horror movie endings list, and this was, I think, number 1. This was up there. I'm not always a fan of downbeat endings, but this one, for whatever reason, just worked for me. It was a gut punch that landed and worked for me. I was like, that's risky. I love it. And just the whole movie, I even loved watching it in black and white. That was pretty cool to see. They have that black and white version on the Blu-ray. And the characters, the dialogue, the CGI doesn't necessarily hold up all that well, but if you watch it in black and white, it doesn't look as bad. But yeah, I love this movie. I reviewed it also. So my number 1, what could it be? The Thing. That's right. It's an alien movie. Anything that comes from outer space, different dimension, all that crap, different planets, that's an alien movie. This obviously is an alien movie where the aliens take the form of human beings. You don't know who to trust. I reviewed this movie also on my channel kind of early on, and it's my second favorite John Carpenter movie. It's technically his best movie, but it's not my favorite. Halloween's my favorite, but this is, definitely number two. The practical effects are some of the best ever, and the score by Ennio Morricone is incredible. Has some John Carpenter vibes to it. Also, I kind of believe that he was working with Ennio to make the score with him, and it's just phenomenal. It's 10 out of 10. Amazing movie. So yeah, that's my list. Top 10. There you go. What is your top 10 favorite alien movies of all time? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, adios.